Hi everybody, this is Brian David Marshall coming to you from the Tournament Center at the Magic the Gathering World Championships in San Francisco. I'm here with our regular dinner guest, Conley Woods, and we've got a great rogue creation from Conley Woods here today. You've never seen anything like
Knock
this.
Your pants off,
He's the
bro.
only person in the room playing the deck. None of that's true,
No,
right?
it's not true this time. I've been a little more disciplined recently, playing with the teams playing. All of us are playing the deck, not a single one of us straight off board. And we have Tempered Steel.
Tempered Steel, really?
Straight out of Nagoya. Obviously, we changed some cards, but yeah, it was
You understand that this is standard and not block constructed like it was in Nagoya.
True, but it was just, we really found this hole in the metagame. Nobody was prepared for Tempered Steel. The Slagstorm started coming in the last week or so when people needed to fight illusions, but even Slagstorm's not that big of a deal. People aren't playing Creeping Corrosion.
People had Slagstorm in Nagoya and it didn't stop the deck.
In Nagoya, we were throwing 4 Slagstorm, 4 Creeping Corrosion, like 3 Viridian Corruptor decks at Tempered Steel, and it wasn't losing. So, you know, people's 4 Slagstorm, 2 Arc Trails, like, that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, people were not really packing Artifact hate. It had faded by the wayside. Everyone was focused on beating illusions or various token decks and whatnot. And artifacts were just a good place to be. Obviously, we have a lot of preferences on the team with like Luis and Paulo and myself wanting to play control decks more often than not. But when you find that deck that fits in that hole, you just really have to run with it. Joshua Layton was the champion of the deck from day one. He wanted to play it.
The Etched Champion, as it were?
Yeah. You talked to him on day 3. He's like, so what are we going to play in Standard? He's like, I'm playing Tempered Steel. I don't know what you guys are playing. So he really got us eventually on board once we realized that all the other decks kind of stunk. So
there were 13, 14 players who all ended up playing this deck.
Yeah.
We had no idea. And when you talk to everyone, people are like, oh, it was collaborative. We all worked on it. So we're like, who are we going to feature? Who are we going to put on the deck for this? This is obviously an important deck. So how did we end up with Conley Woods?
Like I said, I'm the most charismatic. You got to get me on camera. You can't have a Pro Tour without a Conley Woods deck tech, right?
Or it could be because you went 6-0 and earned it as a day one champion.
Let me keep my fantasies at least. Let me keep my fantasies.
All right, so talk to us about the deck. We'll start with the eponymous card that makes the deck.
The best card in the deck turns everything into a beast. Very few decks have a good time dealing with Tempered Steel. Even the decks running O-rings, like you play it, you get in for 6 extra damage. They played O-ring. It's like, all right.
And other than O-ring, Oblivion Ring, nobody's running enchantment removal.
Yeah, basically nobody. No revoke existence. Unlike Nagoya, nothing. No slice and twins. Nobody's running anything like that. Ancient Grudge is a card, but it doesn't deal with Tempered Steel. So
okay. So let's go up here. This is not an artifact creature.
No, this card did not make our deck in Nagoya, which is kind of funny. That like we were playing cards that like didn't even show up in our deck. Glint Hawk again. Flying was just a thing we wanted to focus on in this deck because evasion was just so important. So many ground creatures between Viridian Emissaries, Solemn Simulacrums, just dorky timely reinforcements, etc. That flying was so huge. He's not the most powerful thing ever, but a turn 1 2/2 is like in the air is pretty strong. So yeah, he made our deck.
Talk about.
Great with this guy right here, the Mox Opal, obviously. You can, as many Glint Hawks as you have in your hand. If you have a Mox Opal that's active, you can play them all off the same Mox, which is pretty nice, pretty mana efficient to play. Usually you only have 2, or sometimes you're lucky 3.
You have 4 Mox Opals. This is a sort of a departure from a lot of Tempered Steel lists I've seen.
Yeah, it's legendary, as you can tell from the wonderful Japanese writing.
What's with the fancy pants?
They're what I got, okay? We can't run foils in the Pro Tour really reliably, so you gotta turn to other avenues. But yeah, it's legendary, so drawing 2 is a bad thing. Most decks run 3 as a result, but it in your opening hand is just so explosive, or even peeling it in like the mid game when you need to trigger a Glint Hawk idle for free or something. It's just so explosive that you really want to have one every single game, and so you have to run 4. You do take the risk of drawing 2, but it's just like getting a mana floated a little bit. You can't play the second one. Sometimes they'll blow it up, you never know, but it's just too important to the deck.
How much mana do you have to have in play for this deck to operate?
3 to 4, roughly. I mean, you can have more and be doing things with it, but if you have 3 to 4, you're pretty set. You can't complain. You can't be like, I got mana screwed at 3 to 4 mana.
Talk to me about Pick Knight.
Pick Knight. Yeah, he's one of our choices against removal, specifically mass removal like Day of Judgment or Slagstorm. Not going to be an exposed. You're rarely going to play it on turn 1. You're going to play your Signal Pest, your Vault Skirges, your Memnites on turn 1, your Glint Hawks on turn 1. Really want to play this on turn 2 or 3 when you can untap and activate it. It keeps you from having to overextend while still putting pressure on the board, triggering Glint Hawks, giving you Metalcraft for Etched Champion, which we'll talk about later, which is hugely important. The fact that it's not a fragile piece of metal to give a Metalcraft.
Right.
Yeah, all these things kind of came in, and it seems like a very weak card, and to some extent it is, but it does everything the deck wants it to do.
Sure, so let's talk about the starting 5, your starting lineup,
yeah.
Your Tempered Steel champions.
At least 4 of these made our deck in Nagoya. So Memnite, he's got to be there. I mean, he's weak, but he's a 0-mana guy, gives you hugely explosive starts. I mean, a 1/1 gets great with a Tempered Steel, obviously. A 0-mana 3/3, it's better than Wild Mikado, obviously. Triggers Glint Hawk Idol, he just, just the little things.
Signal Pest.
He's just our Tempered Steel stand-in. Battle Cry is so important in this deck because you want to get 3 to 4 creatures out. He's effectively a 3/1 in the air, or a 4/1 sometimes. Also great with Inkmoth Nexus, by able to kill them with poison. You do board him out in a lot of matchups because he's low impact by himself. So decks that have a lot of mass removal, you don't want to. He forces you to overextend, so you can't play him and 3 creatures and not get blown up by Day Judgment.
He's one of the few creatures that offers no value if he's
unless you draw a Tempered Steel. But if you draw a Tempered Steel, you're winning. So.
Vault Skirge over, say, Porcelain Legionnaire, which is something
or Spine Thopter. We looked at Spine Thopter. He's just so cheap. 1 mana is very cheap. Lifeling's very relevant in aggressive matchups, especially with Battle Cry and Tempered Steel in the deck. You'll play him on turn 1. You don't care about the 2 life. The only time you really don't pay the 2 life is turn 5 or 6 if you have a Mox Opal in play. But yeah, the fact that he's flying put him over the edge of Porcelain Legionnaire. And Spine Thopter is just a terrible card to get a Vapor Snagged. You pay 2 life, they Vapor Snag, you have to pay 2 more mana, and you lost life. It's just terrible. So we wanted to play him instead.
Right, Vapor Snag's a card that's recently become very popular in the standard metagame.
From the Lucent decks and the blue-white token decks.
So Glint Hawk Idol.
Probably the second best card in the deck, next to Tempered Steel. Again, he plays around mass removal greatly. Plays around sorcerer speed removal, which is also relevant at times. 4/4 flyer with Tempered Steel is great. 2/2 flyer without it's fine. He keeps your Metalcraft for Etched Champion without being risked to Day Judgment effects. He's just a great card.
And you've mentioned the Etched Champion a couple times.
Yeah, because he's kind of like one of our secret pieces. We didn't play him in Nagoya either. We might have had like 1 or 2 on the board. I can't remember, but it definitely was not a main deck card. Just because so many other people had artifacts that he's not that great. But when people start playing non-artifact cards, all of a sudden he's effectively got protection from everything. And he's just really great against Slagstorm, great against spot removal of any sort. Really, only Day Judgment gets him along with other things. And so prioritizing him is a huge thing in the deck.
Speaking of spot removal, dispatches. Every time I've watched you guys play this card, it's just been amazing.
It's really good. Occasionally you only tap something, but...
Removing Enchantress Phoenix from the game seems fantastic.
Removing any Titan from the game, especially now that Valakut's not a thing. If you remove a Titan, it's not like they just win. So I removed an Olivia, I killed lands. I mean, it's just a really good card. Sometimes just tapping a creature is enough. You don't always need Metalcraft, although you'd obviously prefer it, but it's just a really good card.
Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah, I didn't actually get any poison wins. I did put a lot of pressure on my opponents, get them to 9 a couple times, and they had to deal with it. But it just gives you an alternate avenue of victory. Usually with Tempered Steel or a Signal Pest, you usually can't win by itself, but it's just a really good card in this deck. Artifact for Metalcraft, you can just pay 1 anytime to turn on your Etched Champion, things like that.
So you have blue in your Seachrome.
We have blue and 0 blue spells in our deck.
And what about in your sideboard?
None in our sideboard. Although we have another blue source in our sideboard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, right now actually.
Okay.
It's the 2 Moorland Haunts is the reason why. Moorland Haunt gives this deck a lot of reach, again, against Wrath effects. There's one thing we want to make sure is that our deck did not die to Wrath. Because we're a creature deck, we had to play 3 creatures. We didn't want to just pick up our cards when they killed 3 of them. So Moorland Haunt gives us a lot of reach there by just putting little dorks into play. They don't have any synergy with Tempered Steel or whatnot. They do work with Signal Pest, but it's just usually get them to like 6 or 5, and then they have to Wrath, and it's like, oh no, at least I got some things.
So they Wrath, you make a guy, you untap, you attack, you make a guy.
Flying is very important again. It's just a very good card in the deck. One of the reasons that it's as good as it is in Standard, and that was a card that obviously was not in Nagoya because it wasn't in block.
Sure. 9 planes, it looks like.
Yep, 9 planes.
That brings it up to how many lands total in the deck?
19 lands with 4 Moxes.
4 Moxes. So by my tally, I'm coming up to 59 cards.
59 is correct.
So there was a lot of debate over the 60th card.
This card changed 8 times a day for 3 days. It was a Darksteel Axe, it was a Chimeric Mask, it was Gataxian Probe, it was Spellskite, it was another land. Every card you could imagine that was white or artifact, it was in this deck.
And what did it end up being?
Big Mike. Big Mike. We settled on Big Mike. He's not the greatest card. I didn't draw him a single time. Maybe that's why I went 6-0. We knew whatever card was going to be in that slot was not going to be spectacular, but he does give us a 5th type of Tempered Steel effect, a much weaker Steel Overseer.
Sure.
But he is also
not legal in Standard.
Yeah,
anymore.
Of course. He is a huge threat on his own. If you play him with 4 mana, that's a 3/3 for 4. I mean, it's not great, but sometimes in this type of deck, playing a non-artifact creature that large is actually just good enough. Again, I haven't had to draw him. A couple other people said when they drew him he was good, but he's just our last card. I mean, you can do a lot of things with that slot. I'm not even sure if it's correct.
So also, I guess technically you could use blue mana out of your sideboard for your Spellskites if you need to.
Yeah, Spellskite's almost primarily and exclusively for red. Red is not a bad matchup, but turning off the Grim Lava Manchers or Galvanic Blast, all the things like that is so important that we went with 3. There was 4 for a while, but we made the last one a Timely Reinforcements, obviously also for red. One thing people will be like, oh, you can't cast Timely Reinforcements very reliably in this deck, you have so many creatures. But against red, you almost don't play any creatures until you play a Tempered Steel because you need to get them out of burn range. So you'll maybe go Origin Spellbomb on turn 1, a Glint Hawk Idol on turn 2, and then turn 3 you can still cast Timely Reinforcements because you don't have any actual creatures in play. So it was pretty important. We only went to 1 of because drawing 2 is almost always bad.
So Shrine of Loyal Legions, that seems like a card that you would want in the main deck here. Yeah,
and we did have 2 for a while. The problem is when the format kind of shifted and became more creature dominant with you know, the illusions decks, the token decks, whatnot. We couldn't really afford to have this card that didn't do anything for the first 5 turns of the game. Even if you play it on turn 2, it doesn't do anything until turn 5. So we moved to the sideboard. It's good against Wrath Effect decks. It's good against basically any blue deck, some of the red decks with Slagstorms and things like that. It's a very powerful card, but we just couldn't afford it in the main deck.
So Hero of Bladehold.
Right next to the land that it had. Every time we bring in 3 heroes, we bring in this land because casting a 4-drop is pretty difficult to do. So we wanted the 20th mana source. We might as well make a blue because Hero happens to be good against the same decks that Moorland Haunt's good against, the control decks, because they bring in like artifact or cheap spot removal, and then they have to use their Doom Blades on things like Glint Hawk Idol, which leaves Hero there to kind of pick up the pieces.
Sure.
And so having an additional blue source helps out with your Moorland Haunts as well.
So then 1 Oblivion Ring, 2 Dismembers, just spot removal.
We debated those spots a lot, back and forth. Dismember is for like mirror type matches. I played against Pure Steel Paladin, it's really good. O-Ring is for any deck with Gideon and things like that.
So which ones are the spirit tokens and which ones are the mirrors?
We have a lot of token making. So these I've been using as the mirrors because they're mine and you put a lot of mirrors into play. Moorland Haunt, I've been using Luis because, you know, why not? He's got a little aura thing around him. And then when you attack with a Hero Blade, I didn't have a 3rd token, so I have to turn him over and use the backside.
Use the logo?
Yeah.
All right, well, just quickly before we go, 6-0, let's say you go on a nice run, you make top 8. What deck do you least want to face in the top 8 with this deck?
The only deck we feared at all was, well, prior to learning about Patrick Chapin's deck, the only deck we really feared at all was like the Slagstorm, Arc Trail, Ancient Grudge, that sort of deck. If it had all those pieces. If they have only a couple of those things, then it's fine. But the red-green decks is the only deck we even fear, and we're still going 50-50 within testing. Patrick Chapin has a list that has a Curse and Ratchet Bombs and Slagstorms and things like that, and that seems like a worse matchup. But
we did a deck tech with Patrick. You can take a look at that deck. What deck do you most want to face?
Any creature-based deck. Illusions is great. Green-white tokens is great. Mono red's actually pretty good. Solar Flare and blue-white control or blue-black control. Actually, blue-black control is pretty easy. The other 2 are a little tougher just because they have O-rings and things, but it's still pretty easy. There's really no matchup besides the red-green or Chapin's list that I would be like afraid to play. I mean, I played basically 6 different decks today and did well against them all.
So from here, you're moving on to 6 rounds of Innistrad draft. Tell me you got something crazy for me in Modern, Conley Woods.
Can I tell you the morning of Modern?
Sure.
Okay, because that's what I'm going to have to tell you.
All right.
We're still working on Modern. We spent a lot of time on Standard, and we spent a lot of time on Modern, but a lot of dead ends, and unfortunately when you hit a dead end, you don't know you're going to hit a dead end.
I need something crazy.
All right.
All right?
All right.
So
Modern.
for Conley Woods, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the Tournament Center.